call the Thursday, September 7th, 2023 board meeting to order. Roll call, please, starting on my left.
Capel here.
Minter here.
Jumati here.
Cole here.
Barrheit here.
Certify the posting of the meeting, please.
I certify that on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, September 7th, 2023 was posted at Rome Town Hall at 4:51 p.m., posted at Quick Trip LLC at 5:04 p.m., posted at Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 5:13 p.m., emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Daily Tribune at 4:14 p.m.
Approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Supervisor Minter, second by Supervisor Cole to approve the agenda. All those in
May I
favor?
have some discussion first?
Oh, would you like some, okay, discussion?
Yeah, I'm surprised there's nothing on the agenda to fill our 2 vacancies that we have. It seems to me that that's of utmost importance to us, especially the time that's probably going to take to fill our town administrator's job.
Okay, well, we can discuss that if you would like. We just met again with Jamie this afternoon. We've been working on a initial plan of action items for her, and that was going to be discussed at our next meeting on September 14th, as we had just met at a town board retreat and had discussed a plan for a HR audit, which I thought we had all discussed at that time and move forward with that this evening, so we could have that on our agenda at our next meeting, as well as we just discussed a plan at strategic planning for a zoning planning department, as well as zoning, which we currently have contracted with Dan Hansen, and we had just shared this afternoon that that's been moving along, and we have information available to us this evening, which we'll be moving forward with presenting more of that at our September 14th meeting, as well as the possible chance of sharing a zoning administrator with the town of Saratoga, which will be presenting that information as well on September 14th board meeting. So we could do that at that time.
Yeah, it just seems we need to move the process along as fast as we can.
We'll have the discussion on September 14th. And we
Okay.
can discuss it at that time. We do have strategic planning that we had discussed those items as well as at our board retreat. And we are having the HR audit done. And I do believe we have an opportunity to have more discussion as a town board to decide how we want to move forward, as well as an opportunity to speak with our town staff and see what their visions might be. We have a very good staff, a very capable staff, and we'll see what comes out of those things when we talk on the 14th. Is there any more discussion? Any more discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, republic with liberty and justice for all. I forgot the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, item number 6. Citizen comments. Do we have any orange cards? No. All right, then we'll proceed on to no action contemplated except for possible referral to future agenda.
Excuse me, I didn't know I was supposed to fill out a card.
Yes, sir?
Do you want to talk about the deer?
Yeah.
That's on the agenda, so when
Right.
it gets to that item, yep,
Okay.
you wouldn't need a separate card.
Okay.
Then you'll be fine, thank you. Number 7, informational updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Starting on my left,
I have nothing.
Nothing.
Jackie?
You have nothing?
I will.
Oh, okay. Nothing except to remind everybody, as I always do, if you want to visit official information on the town, you want to go to romewi.com. If you want to know about events, what's happening in town, then you want to go to visitromewi.com. That's it.
Bob?
Yeah, this last Saturday, we had our Tri-Lakes annual board meeting, and our Tri-Lakes board is happy to report that we have several proactive things that we have planned to try to improve the condition of our lakes, specifically algae. You probably already know that we have treated Lake Sherwood early this spring. The results of that seem to be very, very promising. The lower leg of Lake Sherwood, where Camelot empties into, is a little bit more adversely affected than the northern leg. But nevertheless, we view that trial as being successful, and we have put in our budget this year, in Tri-Lake's budget, to also treat the lower Lake Camelot, as well as the Fingers and Bays, and we'll probably go back into Sherwood too and treat the Fingers and Bays too, depending on the cost of that. The other technology that we have going, and we're trying to prove in concept, is the nanobubbler concept, and that is currently being done in the marina of Lake Arrowhead. The preliminary results seem to be good. We have surveyed the bottom of that area twice already, and the second time it seems to show some improvement. So those two things offer a lot of hope for us. First thing that I could say that we've done proactively on Tri-Lakes other than cutting weeds. So next year we look forward to having a cost analysis of what it would take to do the nanobubbler technology. We'll probably have a special meeting in February to inform the electors of the cost and decide whether we can amortize that over a period of years and what that would cost.
Yes.
Just a comment, for those of you that were unable to attend the Tri-Lakes annual meeting, they did post the presentation on nanobubbles as well as the presentation for the annual report on the website this afternoon.
Yeah, I apologize. We
Forget
had
that.
6 notices go out, and it was entirely my fault, but next time I'll do better.
Okay, we do want to announce and say thank you to Jamie for her 5 years of service to the town of Rome. She served us well, and we want to wish her every happiness and joy as she goes on to her new journey as an administrator for the village of Weston up in Marathon County.
Thank you.
So,
We have a new Amazon distribution center under
yes,
construction.
something new and exciting that'll be developing up there. And we do have an exciting future as well ahead for us. And as part of our strategic planning, we have been talking through 2 sessions. We are looking forward to our 3rd session, as our board and our employees have been discussing that a lot of our future is based in planning and zoning. So we know that we have important future decisions ahead of us, and we're focusing on those areas, and we know that we have a lot of good resources that we can base our decisions on moving forward, and some of those are before us tonight. Part of that came out of our retreat as well as a board that we discussed with Von Briesen and Associates, as well as some guidance from UW Extension in Madison, shoring up the sound people that are serving us well in our communities, our committees and boards and commissions, as well as the resources that are non-attorneys with Von Briesen. We have one before us tonight that will have more of his information available to us for planning. And then we also have Dan, who's currently serving with us in zoning and building inspection, who has served us well. We also have some resources at UWSP that may be putting before us some proposals, and also someone that we may be able to share with the town of Saratoga, so that we'll have more information coming before us that we can make a sound decision with our board. And we also have some very sound and established long-term employees that can help us as well as we reassign duties moving forward. So thank you to everybody. And again, thank you to Jamie for your 5 years of service. So, all right, moving on to item number 8, open public hearing. So, do we have any property owners here wishing to address the board for consideration of levying the special assessments upon property within the following described area for benefits conferred upon the property by the improvement of asphalt paving for 304 Matterhorn Trail, parcel identification number 030-01136-0589. Again, do we have any affected property owners wishing to address the board?
You're welcome to address, you don't have to if you're comfortable. Okay. Yep, we're comfortable.
You're comfortable? Okay, we're comfortable. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed special assessment? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed special assessment? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed special assessment? Okay. Is there anyone opposed or wishing to speak against the proposed special assessment? Anyone wishing to speak against the proposed special assessment? Anyone wishing to speak against the proposed special assessment? Okay, then we'll move on to number 9, and we'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Okay. We'll move on. Discuss impossible action on the following items following Robert's Rules of Order. Number 10, discussion and action, approval of the August 17th, 2023 meeting minutes.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Cole, second by Supervisor Minter, for approval of the August 17th meeting minutes. Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor,
Under next item, agenda items, I thought I had asked specifically for the authorization for the well at the Rome Town Center.
okay,
That is an item on the agenda for tonight. We could discuss that when that agenda item
Okay,
came
it
up.
just doesn't say that under the agenda, and I didn't see it in the packet, but,
so do you want the minutes corrected to say that you requested
yes,
that?
please.
Okay,
Description/authorization.
Yes.
okay, Supervisor Cole, are you willing to amend your first?
Yes, I'll amend the first motion to change the language to description/authorization under the next agenda items in
Super-
regard to the well.
Thank you. Supervisor Minter, amend your second?
Yes, I amend my second.
Okay, we have amended first and second for the approval of the August 17 meeting minutes. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, excuse me. Discussion and possible action, review of the 2022 annual financial report. Oh, excuse me.
You can still read it through. And
Can
we'll
I?
just- Yeah.
All right. And management communication with Amber Danielski, Senior Manager, Clifton Larson Allen LLP. We had decided that even though we received this report, it was give you more time to actually peruse it, comprehend it, and what we will do is allow you to gather your questions, and we'll compile them, forward them on to Jamie, and then we will have Amber available by WebEx at our first budget meeting on September 14th, and have her explain it in more detail to us at that time. So we will not be going any further with this item this evening. So, and then, Jamie, if you have other comments or anything you would like to share with us this evening on this.
I was just gonna say, if you do have questions, if you could email them to me by end of day on the 12th, then I could get them to Amber on the 13th. Then if there are certain, Amber handles a lot of municipalities, she may have to pull that information, so she would have it in front of her for that evening. So that just gives her the ability to get that information ready.
There's a lot of information in there. There's some things that you should read through the management letter to make sure we fully understand and comprehend for the year.
And everybody, this is what everyone got theirs in their mailbox? Yep, okay.
Great, thank you. So again, end of day on the 12th. If you can get your questions to Jamie in writing, that way if Amber has to do any research too, she checks back in the files and then she'll have those ready for us that evening of the 14th. Thank you. Item number 12, discussion and possible action. Review of engineering bids received regarding Apache Avenue from 10th Avenue to State Highway 13.
Madam Chair, can I ask before we have a
Yes.
motion that we could just discuss this one through?
Yes, that would be fine. Thank you.
I'm just gonna ask Director Martinson if you'd join us up at the podium. There was a memo included in the packet, and Brad put together a piece that sort of detailed out what the three engineering firms were offering with price, and then also maybe how what they put together would differ a little bit on a checklist. And I do see that we have all three of the engineers are joining us by WebEx in case there was specific questions about any of their proposals. So Brad, maybe if you just wanted to take a second and kind of do a 30,000-foot level of the three that are included in the packet.
Right, as you'll notice, we did receive, like James said, 3 bids for that work. And it was put out separate, the culvert and the road design. If you want to combine the 2 projects together, the general engineering was in at $14,500. Jewel Associates, $44,317.81, and then Quest at $55,010.65. One thing I will say you might want to note on the summary sheets they put together, they got the checks on them, is just that the culvert was put out, the road was put out to be a preliminary design first, and then they'll come back with a design for the board to approve, and at that time present another cost will be to put the final design together. With that, Quest Engineering, their bid included basic complete road plan. So their cost of the $55,010.65 would be a complete project, culvert and road design. The other ones would have to add on a final road design once the board approves what road design they're going to do.
Can I ask, since we have all three of the engineering firms that are on the call, is there anything that any of the engineer firms want to point out specifically as a summary piece? Okay,
Don't all speak at once.
I have a question, and I asked Brad about this before. He makes a note that general engineering has offered to allow Brad to assist in the survey data collection. And he's done that before and is comfortable with that. And that the other 2 companies did not offer that. So I'm just making sure that they don't want to offer that, or it was not addressed with them, or what the status of that would be. And then the other question is that I know Jewel Associates worked with Visit Rome and analyzed some of this road as far as a bicycle path and trails, and if they might have any information that they attained through that process that would apply to this and could impact their bid here.
so I see Nick from Jewel is on the line. Nick, I guess I would ask if you could speak to those 2 questions. Did you hear both of those questions first?
The first question, I guess, was unclear. I didn't quite catch the first question. But it's all right. I'll go ahead and answer the second question right away. When we went through and we looked at that section of Apache, we did consider having the widened shoulder there, just at a preliminary design level. Having that information, using LiDAR survey information from the county we were able to kind of include that with our bid, having already considered this area. So that does go into the cost that we have associated with our bid that we put together here in our proposal.
Okay.
And then the second question, and then Jim, this question would be asked of you next, is General Engineering said that they would be comfortable in Director Martinson assisting with the survey work, and that helped to bring down some of the costs. Are you also comfortable that Director Martinson could assist with some of that survey work and bring down your cost?
Yes, I would be comfortable with that. I actually didn't know that was an option, so that's why it wasn't included in my proposal.
And Nick, same question for you?
I would also agree with that. I haven't, I didn't know that was an option as well.
Just to clarify with those two, it really wasn't in the bid scope as an option. It's just something that General Engineering had offered, like everyone kind of puts together a different scope for the project that they had offered as a add-on. So to clarify, there was no request for that to be included.
I think General Engineering is just working with us on some current projects, so they've had that previous experience.
Right. So knowing that, how would that adjust the bids? Or would it, if that survey work was done by Director Martinson?
Well, again, it would be assistance because,
Assistance,
yeah,
yeah.
it's not,
Whatever the right word is.
Yep.
If he assisted and helped with the survey, now how would that, because it's quite a difference.
Yeah. Is that the only difference? I mean, the number, but Supervisor, if you could
Right.
answer that question, then Supervisor Keppel had a question.
I was just wondering when the survey work would occur. Would it still occur in this year?
no, I think would it occur next year?
I guess to the three bidders, when would you be doing your initial survey? Would it be this year, weather permitting?
That is when I had planned the survey crew out, Brad.
Okay.
So that was Jim. Nick,
Yes, it'll be this year as well.
Lucas?
I was anticipating this year survey for both culverts, and then I was anticipating utilizing a drone data for Apache and design of the bike lane.
And I think we should just clarify timeline, because I know that this is a priority, and we also know it's a priority, but as far as this would be designed next year, and it would probably be constructed the year after, am I understanding that right?
The road, yes.
Yes,
The culvert going next year, then the road the year after.
yeah, so,
So the culvert
Design
would have a
culvert.
year to
Settle out.
settle out, and any dipsy doodles would be taken care of then.
Yes.
So did you get an actual answer to your question, though, Supervisor Cole?
Well, I got a general answer, but I guess I don't know if that survey assistance is accepted by the other two companies, how it would impact their bids.
and Nick, would you be able to put a general number to that, and how it would affect your bid if there was assistance with survey work?
I do not feel comfortable giving a number, an estimate. I'd like to think that with two people out there, it could get somewhere, maybe cut off about 30% of the work, because we still have to process all of the data collected. But as far as numbers go beyond that, it's very difficult without working with Brad directly to know exactly how he would assist, and how that could in turn cut down the hours that our surveyor needs to do in the field. So perhaps Brad could share with how he can help out, and then that would help us know, help us be able to get a better number on what our survey number would be then.
And then Jim, would you feel similarly to that, or would you be able to provide a number this evening?
Well, similar to Nick, so like on the last page of each of my proposals is a detailed list of survey services and the hours that I have staff devoting to those various tasks. It would be a matter of sitting down with Brad and having him pick from all the tasks that I identified. And then you see the associated hours that I had planned for my own staff to do those tasks. If Brad can take on any of those, it would be a straight deduction of those hours from the contract. But if you would work with Nick, I would have to get the data downloaded and processed in the AutoCAD preparation. Some of those hours have to remain because even from our own surveyors, I still need to do that work from them, from the field data collectors. But you will see a list of tasks in both the culvert and the roadway proposal and the hours associated with each. It would be a matter of Brad telling me what he can and can't do, and we would deduct from there based on my proposal.
I think Brad also mentioned the piece about Quest is a total plan for that road, which is why they are more expensive, because there would be additional cost either with general engineering or Jewel, be a preliminary plan and coming back to the board on that final plan.
So we're not comparing apples to apples here.
Not at
We're
all.
really
I do
not comparing
apologize
apples
for
to
that. That
apples.
was a bit of an oversight on my part. I felt comfortable with the scope that was in the proposal of the project, including the two alternatives, that I felt comfortable at this stage to just give you a proposal for the whole package from start to finish,
Yeah,
the bid documents to award.
yeah. The numbers are too drastically different, and I don't feel that we really, I don't know that we gave them an opportunity to bid on the exact, gave them each an opportunity to bid on the exact same project.
I guess I disagree with that, because what was put together in the proposal, they all had and bid on it accordingly.
But
They all
you
bid,
just said, though, that they did not,
they misunderstood it, so don't, please don't.
No,
don't-
no, no,
don't-
I'm
don't
not
say that the
pointing
bid
fi-
wasn't put together wrong.
that's not what
It
I'm,
was put
that's
together
not
right,
what I
they just
said.
misbid it.
That's not what I said, though, Brad. I'm not accusing you of anything, Brad. That's not
Okay.
what I'm saying. But apparently there's some misunderstanding somewhere that we got numbers that are so drastically different between the three.
Well, they've
I'm not
all
accusing
bid
you of
on it
anything.
accordingly, so what's the problem? And select
What's the problem? There's,
lowest,
you've got
most
one
qualified
that's
bidder.
$23,000
same
different,
at all.
Bob. They're not the same. Something was misunderstood. I'm not accusing Brad of anything, but something was misunderstood here.
Well, I guess the only difference would be, does general engineering have both preliminary and final included in their bid, or just preliminary work?
Just preliminary, same as what Jewel has.
And as Jim pointed out from
survey
Quest, he
costs.
was just more comfortable with making that as a total bid. and
Right, for
then-
both of them.
Yes.
But, no, I'd want to thank Brad for putting the bid together.
I do too.
And
Oh.
that's not on Brad, that's on me.
Oh.
I misunderstood the proposal, and that was on me, and I gave you the full package. Because like I said, I didn't feel there was much risk in it, in the scope as it was laid out, so I just went from start to finish on it, which is how I normally do projects of this nature, and I made the assumption and I didn't read it close enough to catch that
Right.
aspect of the proposal.
No, I think the bidding process looks good, but there are just some questions that
Right.
came up with the offer for the survey that was outside of the bid, but is now on the table because it was made, and the others have indicated they might accept that same assistance. If maybe, unless it's too much of a delay to ask the bidders to come back and adjust their bids, or talk to Brad and see how they would be adjusted, incorporating that survey assistance, and then maybe having the Quest bid separate their bid so that they're all bidding on the same thing.
Well, if
Right,
there's a final
right.
proposal that has to be, why don't we have all three of them here? The preliminary, the final, and the culvert. So we don't have a final yet.
Well, you aren't gonna get the final until you select who you want to have do your preliminary design. Then they can go out and start doing the preliminary design work. Then they're gonna come to the town board with, say, like 2 options. and then the board can decide between the two design options, and then once the designer knows exactly which one they need to do, will affect his cost for preparing the final design. To do it
So do
one-
we have anything from Quest that would forecast what that final design might cost us?
Yeah, that's a 32,000.
Yes, Quest did the whole project with a final, the other two.
How
did
about
the preliminary.
GEC? Do we have anything from them?
No, they only did preliminary, the other two did preliminary,
So they did what we asked for.
yes.
Right.
And this is maybe more an Attorney Flanagan question, but certainly could do a best and final, but now that you've opened bids, they've all seen each other's bids
Right.
to come back to,
Right.
it's also,
Right.
See, and I apologize, I apologize if it sounded that way. I was just saying it's not apples to apples, so I wasn't accusing your bid of not being good. That's not what I meant, Brad. I'm just saying these folks now don't have, it's not apples to apples.
I will say, let's just look at this, if we're talking about the survey portion, I believe Nick said, 30%, Nick, deduction possibly? You know, you look at what they have for their survey cost on their, summary. 1,617 is what their survey cost is. I'm not quick on math here, 30% of that.
That would be,
Okay. So 550 deduct off of their total, which was,
That's Jewel.
1109 or something like that.
44,000, something.
oh, total
Yes.
44, yeah.
$44,317.81.
Brad, I just want to be careful here with that number that I threw out.
Yes,
You know, that was just a ballpark thing. It would really be dependent on, you know, what it is that would be provided to us. So if it's 30%, then that, you know, is appropriate, but if it's more or less, then, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty with that number right now without knowing more parameters.
That is understandable.
I just have a hard time understanding, maybe you can help me understand this, how two bids can be about, I'm not the math, 2.5 times higher than one bid. Is it that general engineering has so much information about us already attained that they can use, or why is that? I just always wonder when something is so much less. You want to take the lowest bid, but I don't quite understand how it can be that much lower. Is there a way to help me understand that?
Lucas, could you,
Can I answer this question?
Yes.
So yes, I do have a lot of knowledge about the culvert and the Apache Road itself. The overall conversation between me and Brad about Apache culvert started roughly 2 years ago. In addition, Brad did already some of the work as far as coordination with DNR, and he already, with the help of DNR, DNR provided a determination as far as the size of the pipe that needs to be used. On top of that, as a part of my research and the preparation for the bid, I did reach out to the resident that property abuts to the culvert. And in the proposal itself, and probably part of the discrepancy is that in the proposal itself, Brad asked for possible land acquisition if needed for the culvert and the construction of the culvert. As a part of my research, I did reach out to the property owner, and property owner will not agree to any type of land acquisition. So that solves that. On top of that, per DNR recommendation, they recommend, I believe, at least either 60 or 65-inch culvert right in that location. So it is a significant increase from the current size. In order for us to accommodate the proposed bike lane and the culvert size per DNR requirements, I will be probably looking to install somewhat maybe a 7-foot or 8-foot pipe with the end sections, and that will compensate all the need for the land acquisition. So probably that's what skews the number in my instance, because I committed 2 hours of my time to do a little bit more in-depth research. I also, as a part of Brad's research, he did talk to DNR, and he also provided data for the wetland delineation that happened earlier this summer. So we already have that information. We have additional data that was collected throughout last 2 years while I had survey crew in the area, and in the my advantage in the project was if I have a survey crew out there doing some private work, and I know town is considering something, and my survey crew is there, I did task them with collecting some data for that project. So that's my advantage with this particular project. In addition, as far as my workload, so far this year, I do specialize in culvert permitting. So far this year, if awarded, this will be my 5th culvert project. So that's mainly what I do. Now, as far as the design of the Apache Road and the bike lane, the number that is there includes the very early preliminary work, and that work comes down to a drone data collection and then preparation of the appropriate maps and meeting with the residents. As far as the final number, it will be extremely difficult to provide any type of final number at this point, because everything depends how agreeable the public will be to the proposed improvement. In addition, the question is how the town is looking to fund this project, because that may change, because obviously there are different funding sources available. There's a possibility of funding the bike lane through DOT or through DNR, and those 2 programs, they have different requirements, and that will also change how the project will, the final look of the project. Going into this, I have enough information and working knowledge with the town and the town dynamic to provide a comfortable number, and that's the result of my proposal.
General
Yes, Super
engineering,
Cousin.
Thank you.
they did complete the engineering from 8th to 10th. That happened on the road this year.
Okay,
Okay.
Supervisor
Madam Chair.
Keppel?
Mr. Public Works Director, did you share that same information with the other 2 bidders?
Yes, you'll notice on the bid document that's sent out to all of them, on the 4th paragraph, it says the town of Rome has already done some initial coordination with Brad Benthauser for the DNR. A full HI review, wetland determination, DNR review checklist is done. This information will be mailed to potential design firms when requested. And those that requested were sent in. So they all have the same information.
Okay.
Did they all hear that question? Did everyone hear the question and the answer? Did they all hear?
The engineering firms,
Yes.
did the engineering firms all hear that question and answer, please?
Yes, I heard it.
Okay. And is there any other explanation for the difference in the amounts of your bids?
Gentlemen, did you all hear that question?
Yes. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a very detailed list at the end of each of my proposals of all the tasks I felt were necessary, the hours associated with it, the wages we pay our staff, and that is the effort. After doing this for 32 years, that's effort that I feel is necessary to design these projects. So, you know, maybe others are way more efficient. I will say I'm very thorough, but that's my proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Nick, did you have anything to add?
I would say, we have a breakdown of, tasks that we have, staff members would be working on it, with a breakdown of hours that they would be devoting to each task. We did our best to do our research, for what can be known about the project before having survey information, and also what was listed in the request for proposals. We tried to hit that, hit all the points that were asked for, and included, I think one difference that maybe was discussed was real estate acquisition. That's still something that we're including in ours, because that was part of the proposal. Our numbers are there with what we felt was appropriate, and I guess that's kind of what all I have to add on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. So what is the wish of the board?
So are we going to discuss this, or are we just going to choose a lowest bidder tonight?
It's up to you. What do you want to,
Well, in view of the fact that I believe all three of these people are responsible bidders, I would move that we accept General Engineering's bid.
do you have an idea how we're going to pay for this?
Well, we have money left over from the State Route 13 to Z project. That was $100,000 there.
It's more, a little more than that, and we have another road project that really needs it first this year, and that's up next.
No, I know that. I'm aware of that.
Yep. Other discussion, comments?
A second, we didn't have a second to that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit and a second by Supervisor Minter to accept the lowest bid for Apache Avenue from 10th to State Highway 13. Any more discussion or comments? Do we have any idea how we're gonna pay for this?
Well, looking at the next couple of pages in the board packet, it appears that there's not quite $220,000 left from the
bond?
13 to Z project. And it was approximately a $203,000 bid to do that other road. So 220 minus 203 is approximately 17,000. GEC's bid was around 14, 15,000 doing rough math. So there would be enough money left to do the road and pay for the engineering.
I got $16,282 remaining after the.
After that.
The
And
203.
Their two numbers added up together were about
14.5.
14.5.
14.
Yeah.
So that's how I would propose that we look at that. The money was borrowed for the purpose of roads. We know that this is a road that needs to get done at some point in the near future. We borrowed the money to fix roads. This is still fixing a road, just in a preliminary way. And we can
provide
still
a
do the
bike-
other payment.
I'm sorry, yes,
And
Jamie?
helping to provide a bike lane, a safe bike lane.
Yes, exactly, a safe route to get over to eventual future projects. Any other comments or questions? Director Martinson, did you have anything you want to add or any comments?
Only I'd say is, We got paid for that crack filling yet too on Akron,
Yeah,
roughly 15,000 this fall. Now, if the motion goes through to give it to general engineering, Lucas, when will we think we'd see the first invoice on this?
Probably November
how about
for the
January
culvert
2nd?
work.
How are you feeling about January 2nd?
Okay, okay. So it will be January 2nd.
January 3rd? Going once,
Already
going
into the
twice?
fiscal year.
I believe we have a good relationship with the town, and I mean, whatever works.
Okay, so bin 3? All right, any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you to all of you for bidding on this project. We appreciate it, and thank you, Director Martinson.
And thank you for joining us by
Thanks
WebEx.
for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, just hang up.
Are they hanging up? Okay. Item number 14. Discussion and possible action. Approval of resolution number 23, final resolution authorizing public improvement and leveling special assessments against benefited property in the town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, with a property.
Oh, you missed one.
Oh, did I
you
miss
missed
one?
one.
Oh, I'm
13.
very sorry.
Jumping ahead.
Oh, I did jump ahead. Guess I want to skip another one. No.
What?
Discussion and possible action. Pavement replacement bids for 14th Avenue from Alpine Drive to North Water Trail, built to state specifications utilizing unspent proceeds from the Series 2023A General Obligation Borrowing.
So Madam Chair, could we just discuss before motion?
Yes.
So Brad did include a nice memo in the packet that outlined that American Asphalt was our only bidder on this project. Supervisor Minter did point out that their bid came back at $203,522.10. And I provided in the packet and updated what we had left on the borrowing proceeds. I just wanted to note, we contacted Ellers to get our payment schedule back on the loans. And you might have remembered that Greg said we got a premium buy on this loan. It was a wanted purchase by the investor, and so they paid more than what the actual loan was. That premium, in turn, Greg at Ellers put towards our interest payment next year, so our debt service levy would remain flat. What that means is that $87,000 of those proceeds would carry forward to next year. That wouldn't come out of highway budget because we would have those funds, and it wouldn't be associated against our debt service for next year in the levy or in highway. So we have to take that $87,000, that premium debt payment, off of the total, which leaves us with the $219,000. You certainly could put that on debt service levy. You have to account for it in the highway budget, and it's gonna skew your debt service for next year. We're gonna go over levy limit worksheet in just a little bit. But Greg thought it was best to, in order to keep it level, to use that premium payment towards your interest next year. So with all of that said, you would have the $219,000. You could, if you did this project, it would be 203 of those proceeds that you would be spending towards it. And then we did proceed with crack filling through Adams County on Akron in order to keep our 3-year maintenance on that new blacktop that we got on that section of track.
That's good. We can stay on schedule. That's great. Thank you.
Did I miss anything? Anything to add?
We still gotta figure out how to pay for the crack filling yet.
Well, if you took it out of the bond proceeds, and then we could write the 14,000 in the budget next year
Gotcha.
for the culvert.
Do we need all that in one motion?
No,
Would you like it all in one
Should
motion?
only-
if you would like, you could.
Yeah, that
but-
would be a good.
I
Did-
move, is it okay if I make a motion?
Yes, go ahead, and then we'll have discussion too.
I move that we accept the bid of American Asphalt for the road repair as presented in the amount of $203,522.10, paying for it with proceeds from the bond from the Apache Avenue loan, and using the remainder of the funds from the Apache Avenue loan to pay for the crack filling of Akron Avenue.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion by Supervisor Minter and a second by Supervisor Keppel. Any additional discussion?
We just hope then that the base is good under 14?
Yes.
Because
I
if
have
it
my
is, we
Yes.
save the 47,000 and we pay for the culvert this year.
Yes. That's what we talked about previously, so we hope that the base is good like it was on Apache, so that would be a nice find.
It would be a very nice find, and we'll hope that is true.
So you work your magic, Director Martinson.
I think we'll be just fine.
Alrighty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Yay, people. How much nice road work this year. Thank you very much.
John did not.
Good job.
Good job, thank you. And a culvert. How about that?
Culvert design,
Culvert design. All right, let's not get too excited.
concrete yet.
All right. Now we can do number 14. All righty.
I don't think it's.
Number 14, discussion and possible action. Approval of resolution number 23, final resolution authorizing public improvement and levying special assessments against benefited property in the town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, with the property address of 304 Matterhorn Trail, parcel identification 03011360585.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move approval.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Keppel, second by Supervisor Bauerheit for the approval of the final resolution authorizing public improvement and levying special assessments against the benefited property in the town of Rome at 304 Matterhorn Trail, parcel identification 03011360589. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with your project.
Number 15, discussion and possible action. Approve recommendation from the Alcohol Beverage License Review Committee on a new Class A combination liquor license for the period of September 8th, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Application received, JWS Beverage Catering and Rentals, LLC.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Keppel, a second by Supervisor Cole to approve recommendation from the Alcohol Beverage License Review Committee on the new Class A combination liquor license for the period of September 8th through September 8th, 2023 through June 30th, 2024 for JWS Beverage Catering and Rentals, LLC. Any discussion?
I
All
would
those-
just
Oh, I'm
share-
sorry,
it's
yes.
okay. Share with the board, this is a Class A. Class A means you sell away, so this is not on-site. Remember, we do have the limits on Class Bs. This is a Class A.
Okay.
We often have that question, so.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Any discussion?
So I'm on the alcohol licensing committee, and we did review this in detail, and everything seems to be in order for it.
Okay, thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 16, discussion and possible action. Approval of the ordinance number 23, amendment to ordinance chapter 20, boards, commissions, and committees, section 9, Parks and Recreation Committee. Just so everyone knows, this is for the addition, so we can keep a steady core of volunteers and input on these committees. We're adding a supervisor position to the Parks and Recreation Committee. Since this is an important planning committee to the town of Rome, and we have a lot of growth moving forward. That's why the decision, or we're talking about the decision of adding a supervisor to the committee. So that's what's before us this evening.
I make a motion to approve the resolution with the addition of the words up to two supervisors. I don't think we need to limit ourselves to having two supervisors. We're looking for people who have the time to volunteer and write grants and do other things for the Parks and Rec Committee. And if that's not possible, there's a lot of board members who have other jobs and other obligations that prevent them from doing that. And if that's the case, then we should look to the residents of the town.
So that means you're agreeing with the 3 adult residents and 2 town board supervisors.
Up to 2 town board supervisors. So there doesn't need to be 2 town supervisors unless that's the way it happens.
So it would state, and up to 2 town boards members appointed by the town chairperson.
I'll second Supervisor Bauerheit's motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Bauerheit and a second by Supervisor Minter to change the ordinance, Chapter 20, Section 9, Parks and Rec, for 3 adult residents and up to 2 town board members.
Madam Chair, just
Yes.
if I could make just a general comment, so just, so everybody understands, we're talking about a defined membership still to this committee. What that's really saying then is that you may have a committee of 4, individuals, 3 adult resident members and 1 town board supervisor member, or town board members, the way that's being
If you change it
proposed.
to up to.
Right.
Maybe we need to change it then
I
to
just
be,
wanna make sure that everybody's clear on what that means, because you could have a committee of 4 individuals, which, not that that's necessarily a problem, other than the fact that if you had ties, those motions will fail. And I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I do think that the Parks and Rec Committee is one of those committees that actually has a lot of interested individuals, and so by subcommittees allows a lot of resident participation regardless of whether they're a member or not, is my
Okay.
understanding.
if I could amend my motion, then I would say 3 or 4 town residents and up to 2 board supervisors. That would always then have a board that would have 5 people on it.
Not if it says 3 or 4, you'd still have the
So,
same problem,
Question,
potentially.
how many members are on the Park
You have 6.
Board
There's
Commission right
5.
now? There are 4 right now.
5.
5 right now.
Yep.
Okay, so if we said a total membership of 5,
Yeah.
consisting of
3 or 4
3 or
residents?
4 town residents and 1 or 2 supervisors.
Correct, yeah, that'd be perfect.
And we'd still have 5.
The hope of
So
the
would
change
you
was,
Provide a second to that then?
we're in discussion, right?
Yeah, we're in discussion. I mean, I see the wisdom of keeping it with 5 with the odd number. I understand the odd number thing.
Right.
Is important.
Yes.
So somehow or another, getting to 5 is important.
Yeah.
You know, and we also value the town people's inputs. But I know there are a lot of subcommittees. I think Attorney Flanagan mentioned that.
The intent of, or the hope was is that with the CORP plan, we get, the CORP plan is where you get the true input of the members of the community. And there is a lot of committees and subcommittees. It seems to be getting harder and harder sometimes to find community input and membership. And with the planning committee, with these types of committees and with the growth of the Parks and Rec Committee and with the interest in the CORP that we're now doing and revising that plan, the thought behind this change was that with committees such as like the Plan Commission, the CDA, those types of committees, they all have 2 town board supervisors on them. And with the time commitment that board supervisors have, they can help steer those committees and use the corp, the comp, and the strategic plans to help guide the vision of the town through those committees when making planning decisions. So that was the thought process behind possibly changing this committee makeup. So we're finding that sometimes at committees, such as the CDA, attendance is sometimes difficult, that we often have to cancel meetings. We don't always have a quorum. Sometimes at Plan Commission, we don't always have a quorum, where with committed membership from elected officials, we know we have to show up for our meetings. So that's sometimes the thought process behind having core individuals as the makeup of these committees, and we can help draw that new membership in. So you're still getting 3 resident members. So that was some of the thought process behind the core makeup of the committee. It's an important planning committee, and as we're putting more money into that committee for development of the parks in the future, that was also part of that thought process. But I also see what Bob's saying, but that was my thought on some
We
of
really
this as
haven't
well.
had a problem meeting our quorum issues, and I think
But you
there's,
have had attendance issues. You have had attendance
we've
issues.
had attendance issues because we've had a member or two that have been sick over the period of time, yeah. But there are,
But we've had attendance issues too. We've had to cancel meetings, or we haven't had a quorum, both at Plan Commission and at CDA. So I'm
Madam
just,
Chair,
yes.
Just for clarification purposes, so you said the other, I'll call them the other big committees, CDA and Planning Commission, they all have 2 supervisors on
Yes.
them and 3 citizen members.
Correct.
There's 7.
Oh, on 7 on our
Or
committee.
So 7 on some, okay.
Some that are statutorily set.
That's correct.
So they're like 2 and 5 or something. like that.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's statutorily, and like on the library board,
Right,
you're
well,
required,
there's-
right. But see, we have those strategic plans, like the corp, the comp, you know, that give your community input to you. So with the corp now, that's actively moving forward, that's where we're gonna get our real community input. And then we have our subcommittee for disc golf. The park, you know, the park's ongoing with the Great Lawn, so that was the thought process behind this, is getting another board member involved. So, I don't know that it's, you know, we could try it and see how it goes.
How many citizen members are on the planning, on the park commission right now?
5.
Citizen members?
4.
No, I'm sorry, 4.
4. Okay, so if we go this route and we want to put another supervisor on there, then are we removing one of the citizen members?
No, it's
No,
been
so-
actively
Right, I
missing.
think we have a vacancy on that
There's a
right now,
vacancy
so the
current.
timing worked
Okay,
to
So-
consider this at this moment.
so there are currently 3 citizen members, a vacant position,
Right,
Quite
could be
some time.
either a citizen or a town board supervisor.
correct.
Which would then, and 1 supervisor on the committee right now, so that would keep us at our 5.
Right, so this, it came at an opportune time.
Okay. I just wanna make sure we're not kicking somebody
Oh,
off of the
absolutely,
park
that,
commission.
yeah, absolutely, we wouldn't kick anybody off, no. It came at an opportune time.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
just so everybody understands, because of the next item on the agenda, I'll abstain from voting on this item.
Understood.
To me, I think the way it was presented is more clear-cut than the up to language. If it just says there will be 3 citizen members and 2 supervisor members, then it's not vague, it's very clear who's on that committee, so that you can't look as though you're steering any people to a committee or not to a committee. So anyway, that would be my opinion.
I
on
like to
it.
have some flexibility here, and I think if you word it, 3 or 4 resident members and 1 or 2 board members to comprise a committee of always having 5 people. That would be my motion.
I believe there is a motion on the floor.
There was a motion, and I believe Dan agreed to second it with the change.
With the change.
With the
Okay,
change,
fine,
yeah.
let's,
Yeah.
we can go ahead
Still
then.
go along with that.
So how would it read now? We've got up to 3 or 4 and up to 1 or 2?
Correct.
It's going to, if that motion were to succeed, it would be a total membership of 5, consisting of 3 or 4 adult resident members and up to 2 town board members.
I thought it was and 1 or 2
Or 1
town
or 2.
board members.
It's still 5 people, it can't get to 6, so they
Right.
can't. Okay.
So if we put a supervisor on right now to fill the vacant position, then that supervisors are appointed for term of office to their committees. That can all change next April
Right.
theoretically.
Right.
Then, of course, we're left with having to find a 4th citizen member or another board member.
Correct.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion?
No, I'm
Okay.
happy, as long as there's 5 people, I think it's.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Number 17, discussion action. Approval of appointment to Parks and Recreation Committee Board Member position. Supervisor Capel, appointment for term of office.
I move to approve the appointment of Supervisor Capel for the term of his office to the Parks and Rec Committee.
I'll second.
There's a motion to approve Supervisor Capel to the appointment of Parks and Rec Committee Board Member position by Supervisor Bauerheit, second by Supervisor Cole. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 18, discussion and possible action. Review and approve a proposal of services by Von Briesen and Roper for a human resources audit. Did you want to bring up discussion first, Jamie, or was the handout?
So there was a memo on your desk tonight from Attorney Macy, who had given the presentation at the retreat. He outlines what would be included in the audit and that the total fee would be $4,000. We would take that $4,000 out of general fund.
One question that I have is I know that they were at our at our board retreat and had a very interesting presentation. And I understand the urgency of getting this work done, but we also didn't reach out. I don't know, are there other firms out there that do these type of HR audits? And I understand Van Briesen has some connection in the past with the town when they used to do our town HR.
They currently do personnel and HR stuff for our police department and our police and fire commission. That is correct.
So is there, again, I understand the urgency of the need to get this done, but we didn't do with this proposal what we do with all the other ones, sending it out, looking for multiple bids. I mean, granted, use the asphalt one as example, only American bid. So the others chose not to. Well, that's their choice. They had the opportunity, they just didn't do it. In this case, we're not even throwing it out there for other people to provide a price on, if we accept this right now tonight.
I don't believe it meets that threshold, does it? I mean, that it goes over a certain amount,
No, and
similar to what we did with Zoning Hub, and considering that they've done our personnel and HR.
it's also a service agreement, and service agreements wouldn't apply, but it would be a comfort level with the board.
Fair enough. I just wanted to ask the question.
Do we have a motion, or we just,
We're just
Yeah.
discussing.
we're just discussing?
I guess then I'll move that we, where's the, I'll move for discussion. I'll move that we approve the proposal of services by Von Briesen and Roper for a human services audit as presented.
I'll second. Bill can second.
We have a motion by Chairwoman Lori Giamatti and a second by Supervisor, we've got it, Bill Capel, for the proposal of services by Von Briesen and Roper for a human resources audit. Discussion?
It doesn't state when this would be completed, could we ask them for a amount of time to get this completed? Because it is important that we get this done.
Sure. He
Sooner
said they
than
can start
later.
next week,
Okay,
and I can get an actual completion date for you. They said they could start as soon as next week or within 2 weeks, and I can find out an exact completion date.
so I don't know if we're talking a week or months or how long this sort of thing takes.
And Madam Chair, if you need anything forwarded to Attorney Macy, just let me know.
Yes. Unless you would like to call him right now, he is available by phone and we can ask.
That would be up to the supervisors if it's,
Well, if he's available by phone, I would be curious to know when he would anticipate being able to complete the project.
Jim is available by phone, and Mark would be the one that would be completing the audit and doing all the work for us, but Jim could probably answer that for us.
Hello, this is Jim. I'm not available to take your call right now.
Oh.
If you leave your name and number, I'll get back to you as soon as
Sorry. We probably got a little late for him.
He was available.
He was available.
At dinner.
Okay, well, I will find that out.
I mean, I have every reason to believe he knows we need this done now and he'll get
Absolutely.
it started and complete it.
Yes.
And, but that would just be my only question with it. Wouldn't keep me from approving it, but I would want to have that information brought forward once we know it.
Supervisor Cole, would there be any amount of time that we could say that if we vote to approve this, and we say that contingent upon them agreeing to complete it in
Within so
X
many
time,
days.
and if they say they can't complete it within X time, then it would have to come back to us for further,
And,
for the vote. Would you have a
Yes.
amount of time in mind?
within
is
30
anyone
days?
else familiar with how long this process takes? Has it been done before? Do you
I would say
know?
4 months.
You think
yeah.
that long?
I mean, our policy book is, yeah, I mean, if it's less than that, that's great, but I would say
I was
4
gonna
months.
suggest 6 months. If they can't perform it within 6 months, then it should come back to us. Because exactly what you said. And they're gonna look at all the relevant laws and our policies, so,
And then
Did they-
they're scheduled to come back and do a presentation of it, I mean,
yeah.
and
I
we
think-
do meet twice a month, but still
Did they write our policy manual?
No.
No?
But I would anticipate them actually, I mean, I don't wanna speak for them, but I would think that 4 to 6 months would be reasonable.
Yeah.
I would be pleasantly surprised if they got it done sooner, if he got started within the week. Cause I was pleased to see that he would get started that
Pay him-
quickly.
Pay him in full when we have the completed audit in our hands?
Mm-hmm.
Then I think I would try the 4-month number and,
4 to 6 months.
do you want to amend your motion to state that, Madam Chair?
Yes, completed within a 4 to 6 month time frame.
With full payment made upon completion?
How about, oh, I don't know if they'll do that.
Half and half?
Half and half.
I mean, it's $4,000. This is a huge law firm. That's not going to really be a
Yeah,
factor to them.
to be a
so.
big factor to them, yeah, we'll do like a half and half, I'm sure they'll be fine with that, like, yeah.
Was Supervisor Keppel the second to that motion?
I'll amend my motion to accept that.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second, any more discussion? All those in favor, oh, do you want me to clarify that, we have that with a completion date with 4 to 6 months, you got all that?
6 months
Yeah.
with the timeframe.
Yeah.
Payment half would start, half would end.
Perfect, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Number 19, discussion and possible action. Approval of ordinance number 23, amendment to chapter 260, noise, 260.2, radios or other electronic sound amplification devices, and 2605 definitions. I'll move that we approve the ordinance number 23, amendment to chapter 260 noise, 260-2 radios or other electronic sound amplification devices, and 260-5 definitions. Can you tell my new glasses are coming tomorrow?
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Motion by Chairwoman Lori Jamati and second by Supervisor Cole for the approval of ordinance number 23, amendment to chapter 260 noise. And I'm not gonna say it again. Any discussion? Yes.
Madam Chair, if I could now just give you just a little bit of an overview of what is changing in our ordinance. You'll notice that that before you are adjustments to the town's ordinance governing radios and sound amplification devices. And currently, our ordinance does cover already, you'll see under 260-2A, motor vehicles, and has a definition though for vehicles. What is being proposed is amendments that aligns motor vehicles, so actually gives a definition for motor vehicles, to be clearer, aligns that definition of motor vehicles to closely mirror state law definition of motor vehicles, but then also includes in the vehicles definition, ATVs, boats, bicycles, mopeds, and assisted mobility devices. Those are things that we weren't covering before, and in talking with the police chief, felt that it was important to account for in this type of ordinance. That being said, those types of devices are going to have a little bit different radius, right? As opposed to some of the more traditional motor vehicles that may be more enclosed. And so you'll see a radius that extends a little bit further than the 50 feet that exists currently in our ordinance for those specifically, and that's why you'll see the section B underneath the ordinance. So again, this is building in the idea that that we're regulating noise for those other devices, those ATVs, UTVs, boats, bicycles, mopeds, and assisted mobility devices, but extends the radius out a bit to account for those, the facts that those are not enclosed areas. And so that is going to amplify out a little bit more than perhaps a motor vehicle as it traditionally defined.
Sorry, Bob.
Does the chief believe that either one of these is enforceable without a specific dB reading from a meter?
Again, this came as a recommendation from the chief, so I do understand he's comfortable with the language as it existed today and with the language that's proposed for your consideration, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see it enforced.
What about golf carts? Is that a vehicle? Looks like we're taking anything that rolls, kind of.
And we've allowed them to travel on our side streets, I believe.
25 miles an hour or less.
Yes.
We can include it under the definition of vehicle. I'm trying to think of, well, so are we putting it under motor vehicle or vehicle? Probably vehicle because of the open nature of
And
such a.
because it travels on our 25-mile-an-hour streets.
So,
It already does say, or any self-propelled or motor-driven vehicle. We see it sort of encompass everything that could be driven with a motor.
I mean, it doesn't, it wouldn't hurt to include it,
To
given that
define
we
it.
do specifically have some allowances for golf carts. We could. And would we propose putting it under vehicle then?
Yes, I think seems where it would belong.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
We
Just
need
one
to
question.
amend.
If-
Sorry, yes.
If we're adding that though,
Amending it.
are we okay with so
First and
Chairwoman, you were the motion, so.
Yes.
And Supervisor Cole?
All right, I'm fine with amending the motion to include that.
I'm
Are you-
fine, I suggested it, I'm fine with it.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I will say, though, I want to commend our police. I think they did a very fine job this summer. I think the overall job that Visit Rome did with the flyers, with our community service, our CSO officer.
Safely.
The Rome Safely was a wonderful campaign. It was recepted well. And a lot of the people that did receive the tickets this year have not fought them. And it's going over well, and I want to commend our officers on the job they've done. 2 boats, 4 officers, and they're doing the best job they can with the amount of boats that are on our lakes. So thank you. Number 20, discussion and possible action. Approval of resolution number 23, a resolution exempting the town of Rome from paying Adams County library tax for 2024.
Move to approve the resolution exempting Town of Rome from paying Adams County Library tax in 2024.
I'll second the motion.
Give it to you.
We have a motion from Supervisor Minter, a second from Supervisor Kappel for the approval.
Bauerheit.
Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Bauerheit for the resolution of exempting the town of Rome from paying the Adams County Library tax for year 2024. Any discussion?
Just
I'll-
wanna,
Yes.
Just to make sure, be it further resolved after it's signed tonight, Madam Clerk Treasurer, if you can just forward the resolution to the Adams County Library Board and to the Adams County Clerk, just so they are aware that we did the exemption again this year.
Did you want to state anything about the difference, or Nicole, did you have any comment you wanted to share? Nothing?
I know
At this time, you're all right. That's all right.
How I understand the County Library tax is that we have, by statute, we have to have they collect X number of dollars at the county level unless we spend at least that much or more in our town budget. And what this does is we're saying we spend at least that much or a
Yes.
little more than that required amount, so therefore, we don't need to pay the tax to the county, we just keep it all here.
Yes, so
That's
next year we
absolutely
would have
correct.
had to expend 263,000, but our budget for library last year was 296, so we're exceeding that amount.
Right. Otherwise, we'd have to give it to them and they get to keep it, so we get to have our own library, so. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 21, discussion and action. Approval of resolution number 23, amending the general operations B cash management policy in the Town of Rome's Financial Policies and Procedures Manual, increasing retained overpayments of $10. Do you want to have discussion on this, or do you want to make a motion?
I'll move approval of the item.
All right,
I'll second it.
all right, we,
I have a comment. I'm
All right,
assuming
we
this
have a
is
motion.
because it costs more than $3 now.
well,
to
I'll,
this process.
wait, we have a motion by Supervisor Kappel, a second by Supervisor Bauerheit for the approval of resolution number 23, amending the general operations cash management policy in the Town of Rome's Financial Policies and Procedure Manual, increasing the retained overpayments to $10. Discussion, and I do have a comment.
Go ahead.
You can go first, if you'd like.
I'm just assuming we're raising it because it's more costly than $3 to process a.
Yes,
Overpayment.
between staff time, the cost of the check, the printing and the mailing, it would be more than 3. You'd be losing funds,
Right.
so, yes.
Did we happen to check with other, well, I did happen to ask, around and check, and I did happen to ask, the clerk treasurer to check with listserv, other clerks in the area and other communities, cause that did seem high to me. Cause 3 is pretty low to cover our expenses, but the average with other communities is $5. So sometimes it just seems like we charge more for things like this and less for things we should be charging more for. So 10 does seem kind of high, and if the average community is charging 5,
How many communities did we hear back from?
well, what, 2? We heard back from 2 only, but if the average, the ones that we could find, that I could find where like average was 5. So, do we feel it's a little excessive? Do you think, I mean, is 10 really cover, is it really $10 to cover our, yes.
I disagree. I think $10 is a nice number to use. $5, 3 to 5.
I'm
Right now,
assuming it doesn't-
inflation will eat up the other $5. I think
I'm
that
assuming
was the
this
right-
doesn't happen very often either, right?
I was gonna say, how often are we returning excess funds?
The
For
most
payments?
common time when it happens is tax payments.
Right. Right.
That's usually because of escrow.
Okay.
Uh,
And do you know, I mean, what it, you probably don't, actually does cost to return the check when you, or can you, how do you kind of come up with that? That is more than $3, less than $10? What is it, what kind of, is it actually, if you were to put a number to it, to return this money, that it would cost the town? I don't wanna get silly here over a couple of dollars, but it was brought up that if it's too high, so I'm trying to figure out what is the number.
So you'd have the staff time, you'd have to break that down.
Yeah.
And, I mean, what's postage now is 65 cents, and then you have to add it into the voucher system. Checks are not inexpensive, they'd have to be printed checks. I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that it's someplace between $7 to $8.
Okay.
Just ask the question, just pointed it out, because there's other things we do that we charge barely anything for. For example, a fee to run stuff from other communities into our transfer site, you know, and then they keep bringing it in. Just pointing it out, so,
But they shouldn't be bringing items from other
well,
communities.
I'm
into
just,
the
I'm
transfer
just
site.
stating, but $10, that's fine. I'm just stating it, so.
Has
But-
anyone complained about this, that they had, that they didn't get it back if it was over $3, or has that ever come up?
No,
I
and if
wouldn't
they,
think
or
it,
they
I
would-
wouldn't think it would, because if it did, this is saying, they can request it, that's what this is saying.
they
Right.
could
Right.
request it in writing and receive it.
Maybe just a general comment, so I do remember when this was built into the policy in the first place. I do remember, that being asked and looked into. I remember, a number of them being $3, some being $5. Those were the ones that were coming up. And I can tell you, back then, it was a heck of a lot more than, one or two, that were looked into. That was some time ago, so to Supervisor Kappel's point, costs go up, right? But I do remember when we had originally looked at this, I don't know why we settled on 3 versus 5 at that time. I know that 3 and 5 were the numbers that were coming up more often than not.
Okay. Any more discussion? Right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 22, discussion and possible action. Approval of 40 urban nuisance deer hunting permits per Wisconsin DNR recommendation to be distributed through the Urban Deer Hunting Group.
Madam Chair, would you like to have discussion prior to motion on this? I do know there's people here that will also want to speak on this item.
Yes, we'll have discussion first to allow them the opportunity to speak. Did you want to talk about your memo on it first?
Sure. So we have been talking about urban nuisance deer for some time now. We have been in coordination with the Central Wisconsin Urban Deer Hunting Club, who do represent a number of communities locally. The DNR has been involved. They've also received calls about our urban and nuisance deer. We put together a tentative map of where the hunting would occur. This doesn't mean that the land that is shaded out on this map is open to hunting. What it means is that permits would be good within that area. So if you're a property owner within that area and you wouldn't mind if the hunt occurred, you'd contact the urban deer hunting group. They would come out, they'd have a conversation with you, they'd assess the land, they'd talk to the property owners, and they will determine hunting locations that would be inside of this area. The permits, all 40 of the permits would be good within this area. That doesn't mean they'd have to take all 40 of the permits either, that all of them would have to be achieved, but they would work with that group on as many that could be during the time frame, and it's an extended season. It goes until March of next year. There is also, we've talked about this in the past, but the deer hunting group does do testing. All of the hunters pay $10 to be part of the testing. If they don't pass the testing, they aren't allowed to participate in the group. It is a time archery test that they do. They will have one for the town of Rome for those that are interested, but you wouldn't necessarily have to be a town of Rome resident in order to participate. We would also allow residents to sign up if they wanted a deer harvested, and we've put on here whether or not they would need help with processing that animal. There is a $25 fee that's charged for every deer that is harvested. That's paid back to the club. That just covers their expenses for the training, for their arrows, for other administrative costs that they have. And that $25, if they did all 40 permits, would be $1,000 would be our cost. We may have some additional processing costs depending on interest of people to take harvested deer, but we would know better on that once we would start to create a sign up, which if approved tonight, we would start this advertising and see how many people we would have that would want to take harvested deer.
This number is not per year either. This is over 3 to 5 years.
No, this number is for this year, for this hunting season, but both the DNR and the Urban Deer Hunting Club said that this system would have to continue for the next 3 to 5 years in order to see a difference. So we're not talking, potentially, we're not talking a one-time call. We would be talking a series of years. But we would have to apply for the permits every year. And you'll notice the permits are in our name as the town, and then we would turn the permits over to the Urban Deer Hunting Club.
Can we apply for special exemption for the deer that we like in our yards?
I don't believe so.
Oh, serious.
Are you gonna allow
I
public
was gonna
comment?
try to get
Yeah.
vests on this,
Is-
so I have plans,
Can we-
yeah, orange
is-
vests.
Were there people, I know, Tom, you're here, this gentleman here, would you like to come up and give us your name and address, please? And if you can sign that there, and make sure the red light is on the podium, right on by the microphone there, if you can push that, if it's red, yes.
My name is John Erdman, and I live at 188 West Walden Way. My house and property are not in this area, but they border it. So I was kind of curious, and I don't know if you guys have the information or not, but how many complaints were received on this, you know?
Well, actually, it was brought to our attention by a few people in a specific area, in certain areas on the lake. And then there were a number of board members, including Supervisor Bauerheit, that had a concern with a congregation of deer. And I'll let him explain. But there was a certain community in the lakes area where they were congregating and eating some of the foliage around the lakefront that they had planted, as well on a peninsula that they were congregating in that lake area. So originally it was talked about focusing on those particular deer
Right.
and taking care of that nuisance, as well as some that were congregating out in an agricultural part of town and moving in to a neighborhood. But Supervisor Bauerheit can kind of speak to some of the board members have brought it to our attention as well way last year, so.
Yeah, seems to be a high concentration of deer around 9th Avenue and D in the farmer field there, and the neighboring houses that are adjoining that. Also on Apache Avenue between 8th and, really between 8th and 13th.
Okay. And then there was a statement made in there about sick deer. Now, I've been here since 2012, camping for about 5 years, and then built a home here. And I gotta say, and I have 40 acres and I hunt. I've been hunting for 60 years, and I've been a bow hunter for 50 years. So I know all about bow hunting and any of those issues. I was past president of Wisconsin Traditional Archers, and so I guess I just have some concerns I want addressed about the bow hunting going on. And is this just bow hunting? Over this, it sounds like it's longer than I thought, because I was gonna ask the question, how long this lasts? Well, it goes to March. What about over gun season? Is this gonna be people coming in with guns and shooting?
No, this would only be archery.
Okay. So, I've never seen a sick deer here. I really haven't. And I don't know how they look at a deer and tell if it's deer is sick or not. Because spring of the year, fall of the year, the deer are losing their hair. Some of them look pretty bad, pretty skinny over a long winter, whatever. I don't know if they can call that a sick deer without the deer actually have been shot and somebody tested it for something. So I'm a little concerned about that being in there. So what is the wound to kill ratio on these? Are we gonna allow them to have 40 permits and then they come in, excuse me, and let's say, and like I say, been a bow hunter all my life, and I know a lot of people that shoot deer, just been part of this community, the archery community for a long time. What happens if they shoot, let's say they kill 30 deer and they wound 10? Do those people still get to keep on hunting, or are those wounded deer in that 40 deer number? And what happens to the people that don't want to be part of this? So let's say there's 5 pieces of property, and I'm just guessing at this, but a lot of the properties are half acres and 1 acre properties, maybe a little bit bigger. But if you got properties and they're hunting on the edges of it, and people who don't want to be involved with this or don't want them hunting on their property, what about the wounded deer? What about the deer coming across? What about finding a deer in your backyard? I think these are things that all have to be considered before you do this. And if it's confined to a small area down there on Ninth and that area down there, why aren't we confining the hunting down to that area? Because I'm also a hunter, and this also, if these people are coming in and shooting deer, and they're shooting bucks, does, or are they shooting just, if it's brown, it's down idea, then, I mean, I've been trying to get my property up to have decent bucks in the area, which I haven't seen a buck this year, I gotta tell you. So, I'm just not seeing. Pardon?
There's 3 of them on Huntington. They've
Well-
been wandering around this week.
I hear you, and I'm not saying they're not around here. I'm saying I have not seen a buck on my property, and I own 40 acres, plus I own an acre, or a half acre. And I have not seen a buck this year. And I've seen less deer this year than I have in the past 12 years, 12 years that I've been living up here. So, just things to keep in mind when you're voting.
Jamie, maybe you could explain that this group, just as part of our flyer that she included in this packet, because of the group of individuals that had complained, it's been over a year now, with the prior board, in that last summer, there was a group that came in and were complaining about this particular group of deer in a neighborhood, and then the ones that Supervisor Bauerheit had concern with, is that they were congregated in one particular area and causing, damage. But then there was also, reports of particular, instances of people feeding them. So they were congregating in one area, not leaving that area. But this particular hunting group is trained and harvested, and they were trained up in the city of Wisconsin Rapids specifically for this purpose, is to remove nuisance urban deer. So they're highly trained and skilled individuals for this hunting purpose. So it was to target specific areas of town where they had been congregated. And now, since maybe Jamie can explain more about how she was able to get more information about this group and work with the DNR.
But I don't see I see it the whole south of D
I-
and part of north of D.
I know, the area has expanded more than I had originally had anticipated that it would go as well, and, right, you are right, it has expanded quite a bit more than the original intention, but maybe Jamie can explain a little bit more for us.
So the permit would only be for antlerless deer, so it is not for bucks, it is only for does. And the permits have to be structured to allow an area, and it has to be an area that's urban, right? So some of the section that we've had the conversation about is farmland, and the farm could apply for a nuisance permit if they felt like they needed it. Where our permit applies to is to the more urban area. And it needs to be broad enough that it's not restrictive, which is why the Urban Deer Hunting Club works so closely with the property owners in order to line up areas that they feel are appropriate for hunting, which is why I say in the map, it's our more urban area. It is a larger swath of area, but it's not all open to hunting. It would still be through permission that it would be allowed. So it's not to say because if your property is in the shaded area that you could go and hunt. One, you'd have to be part of the group, you'd have to be trained. There are methods that I won't share right now, but there are methods to know that you are part of the group and that you are trained that are shared with the town and with the police force. And so we know, and then they are situating themselves where they feel that it's safe in order to complete the hunt.
Right, but how does the average citizen know who they are and walking around on property and stuff?
If they have vehicles that are parked in the area, the vehicles are clearly distinguished as they are part of the group. So they would know if there was a vehicle on the side of the road. And then there are other items that the hunters use in order to know that they are part of this. And we would, again, start to advertise to say, these individuals are in the area, if you have the interest for either the deer or for the property. So then anyone could call the police department if they had a concern, if they weren't sure if one of these individuals was associated with the group during the time frame.
So if these deer are concentrated more on the south side of D, why such a wide swath of West Walden and East Walden and that area north of D?
Again, just focusing on.
I mean, was there complaints from that area?
There have been a number of complaints in the town. I couldn't tell you how many were from that area. And I can also tell you that the DNR has received complaints for our area. And I wouldn't be able to tell you how many, but the biologist was comfortable with, the DNR biologist was comfortable with the area that we selected. They have viewed the poster and they did determine the 40 deer limit.
So you get a wounded deer, can they just go anywhere and track that wounded deer?
Well, these are trained marksman type.
Not with a bow, excuse me. There's too many, I've hunted, like I said, 50 years with a bow.
Okay.
And President of Wisconsin Traditional Archers, I talk to archers all year long. I'm heavily involved with the traditional archers, to this day. And a twig, a twitch, throw your arm, anything will throw that shot off at 15, 20 yards. And compound shooters, and I'm assuming that probably most of these are compound shooters, and they have a habit of shooting 30 or 40 yards. And you can't always see a twig out there at 30 or 40 yards in a wooded area. And there's a high probability or a chance of those arrows going awry. Now, I'm not saying there's citizens that have to be worried about that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there will be wounded deer, and they're gonna have to track them. And I'm just wondering what the rules are on them tracking onto property. I have yet to see, I've shot one deer in my lifetime that dropped in 20 yards. I have plenty of people that'll tell you they've shot deer in the heart that went 300, 400 yards. So archery is not it's not like a rifle, a sharpshooter, and you shoot them in the head and they go to the ground. It's not that way with archery. They are gonna travel a minimum of 20 yards over. And so that's why I'm asking the question about the tracking process here. Are these people gonna have the right to just come in without asking the landowner permission to track that deer? Because I have an area in my 40 acres that I stay out of. They call them deer sanctuaries. I stay out of them. And it's their bedding areas and where they leave their bedding areas, where they head for food or whatever. And that's all stuff that you have to learn being an archer to do, take your best shot and get the best, to kill the deer as quickly as possible. So I don't want people coming in and tromping around in my sanctuary areas that I wanna keep safe, and I don't want anybody in there. Like I said, I don't go into those areas, and I
Okay.
own the property.
We appreciate your input, and thank you very, very much. I think we'll give the next gentleman an opportunity, and if you have more comments after we have discussion, we'll welcome you back, okay? Thank you.
You want me to
Tom?
sign on here?
Yes, please, if you would, your name and address and phone number.
Okay.
Tom?
Thank you.
Hello,
Hi.
my name's Tom Beal. I live at 314 Wave Trail. And I noticed that one of the parcels that I normally get a permit for hunting on is in this section here, but a section that is almost exactly the same and is even closer to the urban area of the town hall is not. So if you're behind the church over here, the Denora Church, that section of the town of Rome land is not within this hatched area. But the recreation area behind Woodland Church is in here. And I've been hunting there for the last 3 years with my son. And now you're putting other hunters in here, and I can't go hunt there. So you're taking away the recreation property, which was meant for legal hunting, and you're saying that these sharpshooters are gonna be in there. Well, I don't see how actual forest land is considered urban. There's no houses behind there in that section of 50 acres. There's even the houses along there that you see on Rapids Trail, those are all vacation homes. There's only like 2 or 3 of them that are year-long. So, how anybody is saying that it's nuisance deer in there, I see the same 10 deer walk through my yard every day, and that's it. We used to have more when I first moved in, and now I only see 10. Sometimes I only see 5. So even at DNR estimates of 54 deer in a square mile, that is not happening there. The other part is I see the same deer in my yard that are way down, go all the way to 15th Avenue along Rapids Trail. And you can't tell me if those same deer in that area that we have 54 deer per mile. It just isn't happening. It's the same thing that the DNR says we don't have any kind of cougars or mountain lions here. We all know they're out there. You can talk to people at Sand Valley, you can talk to people down in the farm area. There's cougars out there. So them telling us how populated the area is not correct. They may have their little numbers that they use, but it's not gonna happen. My other point is, if the nuisance deer are over here on the peninsula, why are we making everything over in the forest area? I have to agree with the other gentleman. I mean, you're not gonna drop a deer on a spot like you do with a gun. It just doesn't happen. You're gonna have young kids seeing deer that are wounded running into their yards. And I know, even people who are against deer hunting do not want to see a deer wounded dropping in their own yard. It's just, I urge you not to go with this at all. I think if you have ethical hunters, they're going to take out a majority of the deer on their property that they know are being a problem. they're not going to go and let them run off their property to go die someplace with an arrow in it. So, I just kind of protecting my own hunting area, but I just don't understand why these forested areas are being considered nuisance. And it's like I said, it's stopping people who are legal hunters being able to hunt these spots that they've done in the past.
So, question that sort of addresses your comment, because it's a question that I have. Is this area marked, and so if that forest land is included in this area, does that exclude regular hunting during the regular, say, gun deer or archery season on that forest land?
So there would be no gun hunting on that regardless. We wouldn't allow a gun.
Whatever
right.
hunting is allowed there now, would it still be allowed even if we have this urban hunt going on?
So we had a conversation since we were doing the urban hunting, and Tom or any hunter could participate provided they went to the training and received the education and would be able to hunt on that property, that we would not do other town-owned permits this year in a means of not having confusion between those that could hunt on town-owned property, those that were trained. This gave us consistency to know who the hunters were, that the hunters were trained, and that they had the tags from the Urban Deer Hunting Club.
So we're taking away rights from our town residents, giving them to these other people. Now, I know you have the opportunity, should you choose to go pay their fee and get their training. I get that, but
The fee is also less than our permit, and we have very few people that, maybe last year we had 3 individuals that
right, I
wanted to
understand, but
hunt
we're
on town
still
property.
taking away rights from our town residents. And then my question, my second question is, so I'm a landowner over by Lake Sherwood. If I don't want those hunters on my property, how do I exclude them? It's in the area, and I don't want them anywhere near my house.
So if, you wouldn't have to reach out to them to say that you want it to be excluded. You wouldn't have to say anything. But if your neighbor said they want it to be included, the club is gonna come out and look at their property, and then they would ask you, would you be comfortable with that? You would say, no, that excludes that property.
Okay, so they would follow up if
Yes.
my neighbor wants
Yes.
some deer removed.
And
then-
again, they're doing this in Wisconsin Rapids, they're doing this in Port Edwards,
Buren.
and Nakusa, I think is the other one. So they are familiar with that process.
They have a process in place.
So how many deer do these guys get to shoot?
Well, they would have 40 permits here in town.
No, I'm saying per person. Can they, if they shoot a deer, do they get to come back?
Did you wanna come up?
They could have a potential to have more than one permit. It would depend on how many hunters had interest in taking permits in the town. But it doesn't mean that they keep that deer. That's why we would do the list. Right, we would do if you wanted a harvested deer. So, but a hunter could potentially call more than one deer, yes.
See, sadly, this is a carryover from over a year ago, and there was a group of families or in this area here closer to the lakes, and the homes congregated here where they were having a problem with nuisance deer. And there was also an area over here where there was a concern that they were out in this ag area over here where they can get ag permits if the farmer deems it necessary. So that's where the concerns were, that those deer were then wandering into these homes over here, but there was a real issue over here, but we haven't heard from those individuals for quite some time. But the hope is that this group could help us with those deer over here in the lakes area where we were hearing the most complaints, but,
I guess
so now
then
it's
why aren't we
expanded.
concentrating that group
Right,
in that
and so
area
now
is
it's
what I'm
kind of
saying.
morphed out, but the group was trying to help us, but the DNR biologist has now said that they know that we have more and more deer in this area, and they've deemed it necessary to do, what do you call,
But harvest, they have also received complaints,
They,
yes.
the DNR has received complaints that there's too many deer in this particular area of town. And so based on their complaints, they've apparently said this area needs to grow. But we haven't heard any more complaints since over a year ago in this area, unless Supervisor Bauermeyer would wanna
So a resident-
expand.
A resident with 50 years of bow hunting experience, you're telling me I gotta pay money to go?
No, I'm not,
Go be taught? No,
I'm
no,
listening
no,
to you
no.
tonight, sir.
Yeah, if, as she stated, they had to pay, and I'd have to go up to Antler Archer and get trained.
Oh, and don't, but we were just looking for a resolution to a problem that was brought before us over a year ago, and we're just trying to resolve it.
But
and-
not on your property.
No, not on
not
your
on your
particular
property.
No,
property.
and they're not gonna enter my property.
Yeah.
There's no way.
But there's,
But what I'm saying is that you got supposedly experts,
These-
coming in to do this, but then I think you need to confine it to the area of the people that are complaining with the nuisance deer and the problem. Don't spread it out through the whole town. I just find that ridiculous, that's all.
Thank you for your input. Thank you too, Tom.
if
The
I-
board, do you wanna
I have a
discuss
question.
now?
So if I understand it correctly, it may be confined to the people who are complaining, because I don't think if you don't have a problem, you're not going to call and ask to have someone come and call the deer on your property. So, I mean, you hate to put something on a hope, but the thought process might be that the people that would call are in these nuisance areas that have the overpopulation. They're gonna call because they've got the problem, where maybe, I don't have a problem, I'm not gonna call, I don't want them killing deer on my property, and so then they wouldn't be there. So is that sort of the idea of this? But then again, my neighbor might not like deer. I mean, I've hit 4 of them with my car in 3 years, so, you know. Yeah, so, I mean, they're not my favorite thing, and I don't like, I love deer, but not, I don't drive at night because of this reason, because I've hit them, but I'm really not a great fan of this. I'm more a fan of educating people to stop feeding them and, baiting them into their yard, because there's actually a person that likes to sit in his yard because he's got one trained to come and eat out of his hand. So that kind of education needs to be out there, but, so anyway, I'm digressing, but I think my point was that you wouldn't call if you didn't have a problem. I don't know if that helps.
likely, you
Likely
would not
you would not
contact
call
them.
just because
Yes.
you like the idea of someone coming and shooting deer. I mean,
And again, we do have
But-
some town-owned properties that are through this, that potentially they could hunt on those town-owned properties. But otherwise, I hear what you're saying. If you didn't have a issue in the area, I mean, I will say, I understand they are not here tonight. They have been here through the past year, and we do still get calls, people who want us to do this and that have said that the problem has continued.
right, so
Right,
could
right.
the town say that they don't want them hunting on the town-owned property?
I guess we could, if that's what we would want.
I'm just trying to point that you brought up, that that's where your recreation, there isn't that much town-owned hunting property left. And
Right.
so people who used to enjoy that sport maybe have limited places as it is.
So it's shrinking
know.
this down maybe, and,
I don't wanna be part of their process,
Right,
you know, I don't wanna be a sharpshooter.
right,
That's
I
not
understand
my
that. You
intention.
wanna keep doing what you've been doing and your family's been hunting on this particular land,
I
so.
could think of another gentleman that
But
comes every
it's-
year for his permit too. He's one of like probably the 3 that gets his permit from chief, and,
Yep, he came in and he got all of this information.
Oh, okay.
And he is not opposed. He felt very confident that he could pass the archery test. And a piece of hunting is also the being with other people and other hunters, and that did not bother him.
I think no matter what we do here, we're going to have people that are like happy about this and those people that are sickened by it. You know, there's gonna be real extremes on this, so it's difficult to decide.
and yes, Supervisor
So,
Minter.
two things, we mentioned that, this goes back to over a year ago when this first started, and then we had the UW-Madison students do their things, which helped create some of those educational pieces. I'm disappointed that the DNR expanded the area as dramatically as they did.
Yes.
the original problem was the issue with the deer on the peninsula. And now all of a sudden, not only is it the peninsula, it's all the rest of the shore of Lake Sherwood on both sides of the lake. It's Camelot, it's part of Arrowhead, and it extends out into forest lands where we've traditionally had hunting permits for town, well, not really town, anybody who could get a hunting permit to hunt that land. I'm disappointed in the expansion of the area.
I will take ownership of that. I don't think that's a DNR piece.
Can't we blame the DNR?
We cannot blame the DNR. I will take ownership of that. They said when you put together the permits, you can't make it so exclusionary that it's these small sections of land. That doesn't work when you're looking to do a harvest. It has to be this larger section, which is why they do this program of, if you have an issue, would you like to open it for hunting? You have to give a big enough swath that they would have areas in which to hunt. So that's not a DNR piece. This is where have we heard from people? Where is our urban area that we've discussed that a call likely could occur, and still allowing some space in which, if there are people with concerns, that they could call and have this conversation with the group.
So it's really, so to be clear, and I'm getting more clear on this myself, it's not like they're coming out like one entire weekend and hunting this entire piece of property across town. You call and you say, I've got 16 deer standing in my yard, and they do this and they come, you gotta call and say, all right, I've got a problem right here on the peninsula, I want you to help me. So it's not like they're coming and hunting this entire swath of area every weekend and taking all these deer out so other people can enjoy hunting this land. It's like, you got a problem, okay.
Yep.
But still though, they're shutting out other hunters for this open forest, little bit of open forest we still have for other hunters in the area.
That was our determination in
Okay.
order to avoid confusion, and we do have very few permits that get issued a year. I think we had 3 permits that got issued last year. So,
For bow hunting.
which would be the only hunting allowed on town-owned property.
Right, we don't allow gun hunting on
Well, I
town.
think you can muzzle load down by Lake Camelot, cause that's county forest land and you have to
Right.
permit that. But other than that, we just had a conversation that our permit is $25, this is $10, you ensure that there's training that's had, and then we have the same opportunity to have the list of names and the identifying marks and areas for where the hunters are in town.
Okay, I was just clearing up some
Yep.
points for people that are listening at home in case because they may not have these documents. Did anybody have any other comments or questions, or did you want to speak again, sir, or have anything to add?
I just, the one thing I didn't understand is why, as residents, taxpayers, and everything in this community, why we weren't contacted first to say, this is what we need done. You know, there's a lot of hunters in this community that come up here, they hunt up here, and to bring the DNR in and all these other people, hunting club, and, you know, let them hunt when you have to own 5 acres in the town of Rome in order to hunt on it.
To discharge a
And-
firearm, yes.
And these people can come in and hunt on a half acre. And we can't. We can't do that. So.
You're
just-
right.
I'm just
Point
saying.
taken. It was for an original purpose, sir, and you're correct. And
And I know you
You're
have
making
have
a
the
point.
power. I know you have the power to
No.
pass or deny this, but I'm just saying, we can't do that. My son owns 4.5 acres, he can't hunt on that.
Right.
But these guys can come in and hunt on a half acre if they get permission, so.
what's your pleasure?
Call a question.
Have we even had a motion?
No, we didn't. No, we
We
have
don't
not.
have a motion. Well, then we can't call the question.
Okay, I move to approve the 40 urban nuisance deer hunting permits per the DNR and a recommendation to be distributed through the Urban Deer Hunting Group.
We have a motion by Supervisor Bauer Height. Do we have a second? We have a motion by Supervisor Bauer Height for the approval of the 40 urban nuisance deer hunting permits. Do we have a second? The motion dies for lack of a second. Thank you for everybody who participated in the discussion. Jamie, thank you for your efforts in trying to get together this information, and
thank you for allowing us to speak.
you're welcome. Yes,
I have one question for you guys, though, is the chief still able to issue permits for that?
yes. Correct, Jamie? He is?
I think we need to reevaluate. I don't think we can answer that question at this
Oh,
moment.
I'm very sorry
I
then.
think
I
we'll
didn't
need
mean,
to reevaluate that, knowing that at this moment won't go forward.
oh, I'm very sorry then. I misspoke. You'll have to check with Jamie and the police chief, Tom.
Because bow hunting season starts in 2.5 weeks.
That's correct.
Yep.
Check with them, well,
when
Tom,
I originally-
discussion, Tom, just check with them in the morning, okay, please? Thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry we can't answer any more of your questions.
Nope, that's all right.
Thank you. Item number 23, discussion and possible action. Review of the existing wells in the Rome Town Center, including the Great Lawn well usage and sprinkler system. Okay. We want to start with discussion on this one. Town of Rome Public Works, we have information before us. We want to have Director Martinson and Jamie help us with this information.
This was requested by Supervisor Keppel at the last meeting. Director Martinson does have a memo in the packet, and then did include the water withdrawal reports. Again, because these 3 wells are located in close proximity, they're considered a high cap well, and so there's a annual report about their withdrawal. I did hear Supervisor Keppel's question at the beginning about the authorization of that well. I did both. Director Martinson and I looked back through meeting minutes. It was discussed as part of the budget process when we were beginning the Rome Town Center expansion of that park. It was not acted on as a separate motion or as a resolution. It was included as part of the overall budget for the build-out of Rome Town Center Park. But happy to, and there is also a map too that just notes those 3 locations that Director Martinson put together. But happy to answer any other additional questions about those 3 wells.
And the wells primarily run the sprinkler system and I'm assuming the splash pad?
No,
No.
the wells only run the sprinkler
Only run the
system.
sprinkler
The
system.
splash pad is on Rome Water Utility. The bathrooms are on Rome Water Utility. These are only for sprinklers.
So water comes out and water goes back in, sort of.
Up until now, they're only for sprinklers. Because there was a proposal.
I don't know if you would want to share more about what you had found with pump capacity.
Yeah, there wasn't a proposal, there was a discussion that we had on the Parks and Rec Committee in that we could possibly save ourselves $25,000 a year in Rome Town water expenses for the splash pad if we could power the splash pad by a well. We looked into that, we've had the well tested, and the well meets all the requirements of doing that. The DNR would also sanction that if that's what we chose to do. The problem remaining is that our existing well pump on Geneva Trail there for Rome Town Center Park only has a capacity of 55 gallons per minute. We have measured the splash pad here in the last couple days before Brad shut it down. It looks like that's probably only half of the requirement for the splash pad, so that we're not going to be investing any money in extending the well to the splash pad if we're only going to get a dribble of water through there compared to what we have now.
So we'll continue using the Rome utility?
As far as I can see, I'm going to talk to the well guy tomorrow and see if our 55 gallons per minute is accurate and what he thinks about the situation. But I think that that's probably going to be the final resolution.
Yeah, I guess from my standpoint, the issue for me is that you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, because sooner or later, the revenue that you lose from the water utility is gonna have to be made up by the water users. Not necessarily right away, because there'd be no necessary rate increase because of
Well-
the financial position. But sooner or later, you take that 30,000, it's 30, by the way, not 25.
Well, it's at least 25, okay, yeah.
It's 30 or better. Somewhere along the line, the ratepayers would wind up eating that 30,000.
Well, before the splash pad, they didn't have
I understand.
It wasn't in
And-
there.
And I said, it's not necessarily
and,
immediate, but
if there's a way to save
you're spreading the
the
cost of the
town
utility over-
$30,000, I think I would be in favor of it. If
Spread the
this-
larger, you're spreading it over, it's like the fire hydrant, it's like the fire hydrant argument. You're spreading the cost over a larger group of people by leaving it on the Rome water utility.
I'm sure there would be money savings too if they didn't do it, okay? There'd be less water to chlorinate and treat. They wouldn't have to test the water every day. They're doing that now as a voluntary thing because of the splash pad.
So if the Rome water utility water is chlorinated and treated, the well pumps aren't, they're just coming straight out of the ground.
That is
How does that affect the splash pad health and safety?
It's treated as a communal non-communal well, and that's regulated by the DNR. And as long as you pass the bacteria test and the nitrate test, you can drink it. If you can drink it, you can bathe in it.
Except that we're removing the iron from it, and the iron that would build up in the splash pad equipment will sooner or later come to roof.
I'm sure that we could filter the water if that's an iron problem.
The DNR, I think.
That's why we had to get a permit for our water operators. They had to pass the water iron removal permit.
The
doesn't look
DNR
like-
would require that we would test it at the beginning,
For the first year, it tests every month.
but then after that, it wouldn't require a test.
Okay, I've gotten answers to my questions. Thank you.
When we received the grant from the Legacy Foundation, did they have any restrictions in their grant? What type of water, whether it was the treated water from the town or the well water?
No, but we did have a conversation at that point in time about what long-term maintenance would be, and that was part of the conversation, that there would be maintenance through the water expense with Rome Water Utility.
And that it was the town's responsibility and that we committed to
accepting
those
of the
maintenance upkeeps would be ours.
It's not an issue right now, right?
Doesn't look like it's going to be, no.
Okay. Information.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 24, discussion and possible action, 2024 budget general discussion, review of wages and insurance updates, and review of priorities. This is just a brief update, I guess, to get us started on our budget.
That's exciting.
I love budget.
She does. Her ears wiggle and her eyes twinkle and she raises her hand. It's budget time. She didn't do that this time because we're going to do it fast, right, Jamie? We got our schedule all worked out before everybody got here.
Okay, well, what am I
Would you
looking
like
at?
me to start with a couple items?
Yes, please.
So the agenda notes, review of wages and insurance update first. So, maybe just sharing a couple resources that I provided. The Group Health Board through ETF did meet. That's this press release that got put out. They have not released what's called the 88% chart, which is how we determine who's our tier 1 provider and our maximum coverage. But they did release that this year they are unable to to use savings to help keep those costs down, that there will be a rate increase, and for local government employees, which is how we participate in the program, that's 14.6%. That doesn't necessarily mean an absolute 14.6% increase. That means across all of the tables and the providers, and then when they release those tables and we find out with our high deductible health plan, we'll determine what that increase is. What it absolutely means is that our tier 1 provider this year is not our tier 1 provider next year. They weren't able to provide that competitive price in order to stay in tier 1. It doesn't mean people have to change their health plans, but again, we can only cover up to 88% of the tier 1 provider. Again, in a couple years ago when we had this issue with WEA Trust left, that's when we instituted our wellness plan, and we helped to try to have other means of which to assist with that cost through that wellness plan. So we will get, open enrollment starts September 25th. We'll get these numbers slightly before open enrollment. My hope would be we would have them maybe by next week for our first budget meeting, because that will help to kind of determine where we want to end up with benefits. But just a little preview that's a piece of that's coming. That leads to my other chart, which is this chart. We did call some neighboring municipalities about high deductible health plans. Do they offer one? If they did provide either their premium cost or that percentage breakdown, we added that. And then what do they contribute to the HSA? Do they have a wellness? So we wanted to give sort of a comparison of what some of the municipalities that would surround us would be, and then what ours currently is. So this is just kind of an informational piece as we're having that conversation about insurance once we know what those rates are. Happy to check other municipalities if you would like other municipalities added to the list, but wanted to give a starting point so we had a place to start with next week.
Just one thing, Jamie, on this chart here, you have contribution to HSA, yes, no. You have on Stevens Point with participation in wellness. We also have that on ours. You just don't have it on your chart.
So we do a contribution to HSA regardless if you do the wellness. In the city of Stevens Point, you have to participate in the wellness in order to get the HSA contribution.
Oh, I see. So it's okay,
Yep,
gotcha.
it's still optional to do our wellness. You wouldn't have to, but then you wouldn't get the benefit of the wellness.
I see.
But you still get the HSA contribution.
Got it.
And could you remind me, what do we contribute to the HSA for our employees?
So ours is on the bottom, across the bottom. The single is the 2625,
Between the
and
last
the family is
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
next two columns
Yeah.
over.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you. So we are significantly higher than many of the surrounding communities.
So then the next piece about wages, again, preliminary chart, that's this one that was handed out. This has two sections on it. It has potential 3% wage increase, and then 14.6, we just did 15%. 15% increase in insurance, or 5% wage increase, and that 15% in insurance. So the difference you see in the cost increase is only the percentage of wage, whether it be 3 or it would be 5, because health insurance is in either of those numbers at a 15%. If it's not 15%, that's terrific, and we take that down, but we just wanted to kind of give a preliminary starting point of what it would mean if you did a 3 or you did a 5. I know that Chairwoman's done some research on surrounding communities about percentage. I think you said that Adams County is looking about 4.9.
Yeah, they met with their admin and finance, and they proposed 4.9%. I asked Jamie to work on the 5%. Based on what's been proposed out in the area, with Adams County going with 4.9, and I think she also found that 4% is what she's finding in surrounding communities. The feds were originally proposing 8.7%, but they're looking to settle around 5.9 excuse me, 5.2%. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is looking at CPI of 2.7, probably settling in closer to 3%. And that was about June or July of this year. So we're looking most places between 4 and 5%. So that's why we looked at the 5% as probably the top of what we would look at. But that's why you've got those two. Maybe we can look at 4. So this is preliminary numbers to give you. Again, it's a workers' market, and the county, like I said, is 4.9. So that's where these came from.
Are some of these categories like cemetery, they're fractional people, right? Just based on,
Yeah, that's just fractional, based on the part-time that's
okay.
there. And I would point out, like in the administrator piece, we automatically just did a family insurance, because if you are gonna have a transition, we automatically budget family. We can always take that down, but we budget the hire right away.
One thing I wanted to ask too, though, is I had asked about the PD and Public Works, especially if we have another winter like we had last winter, not knowing what might happen, and then with police, having the boat patrol, CSO officer, those types of things in the contract for overtime. I know in the past you've done averages, and now we've added a full-time person in each department. You know the unexpected, so averaging those things out, another full-time person might skew those numbers using an average, and would it be wise maybe to allow the department heads to use the annual numbers versus the averages? So are those things that we need to think about when we look at these different wage increases? So if we could just keep those things in mind for overtime and wages. But
And I
those
think
were
there
some of the
was-
discussions we've had.
There was some hope too with the addition of those individuals that there potentially could be less overtime because there was more support within the department too. So it's a balance of the two, and just never knowing kind of exactly what type of winter we'll get. That's
Or
we
the
always-
use, or how we need to use those employees. So we're hoping to allow the department heads to really dig into their budgets and allow them to work with them for the next year. And so these are just some preliminary numbers to get us started at what we're looking at and moving forward, so.
I have one more.
Oh,
Last one, I promise. This is the Town of Rome levy limit worksheet.
oh, we didn't have that one. Did we?
Yep, it should be up there.
Oh. Oh, thank you.
So we worked
Thank you very
with
much.
Ellers because a big piece of this is how much, you have your base that you had last year, but how much more do you potentially have that you could add to levy? Again, 0% or net new growth. Our net new growth was 4.98, 4.89. I switched those numbers, 4.89.
We'll take it. It's,
So you can see on the sheet here that net new construction last year, when we had the 7%, was 205,000 that we could take. This year is the 149,723. I don't have the numbers yet for how that equates to mill rate, but just to give you an idea, that's what you can add, would be the 149.
so. And the interesting thing about hitting the population of 3,000 is?
You cannot go back to exceed the levy limit by act of the electors, the president, the night of your budget hearing. The only way now that we could ever exceed levy limit again is through referendum.
Exactly. Which is not a bad thing, necessarily. So,
So we're at likely at the 149, because it would be, we also don't have a fall election, right?
Yeah.
So you'd have to do a special election if you needed any sort of
we have to
referendum.
really be moving in order
Yeah, I don't know
to
that
go
we.
over the levy limit.
We did have a conversation late this afternoon. We had originally talked about budget being right before Thanksgiving, that November 16th timeframe. just wanted to introduce the potential of maybe moving that up to November 2nd. I will selfishly say with my transition, that would have only allowed one more day after budget approval. If it is on the 2nd, with my transition and a still new clerk treasurer, that would allow us an opportunity to have 2 weeks to get all of the paperwork filed. What that means though is we got a cruise on the budget. You have to have a public notice put out no more than 20, but at least 15 days beforehand. So we would really have to be through with budget numbers and feel comfortable with them October 13th-ish. So next week starts budget, and we would talk about budget every week until we'd have an approved levy amount that we would be taking forward to November 2nd. Don't have to answer that question now, but
But it also allows us time with Melissa and tax bills and the things that she would be, for the first time, stepping through, and actually for Jamie as well, because Amy used to do them. And Amy, left us in the spring and moved on to, work at Lake Arrowhead. So it's new for everybody here. So it gives everybody a chance, a little bit more breathing room to deal with those things at the end of the year, as well as we've got board of review coming up. So it gives everybody a little bit of breathing room to handle all of these things, as well as the other discussions we want to have as far as moving forward. So new numbers will come to light as far as looking at this budget and putting it together, and how much money do we really have for next year, right?
yes, yeah, we just will have to be, as we have the conversations, I don't wanna underestimate with you the pace that we'll have to do it. Like, we will have to,
Breakneck speed.
we'll have to be swift, but,
Could you remind me again, what are those dates of our budget meetings?
yes.
And can we,
Apparently I never got them on my calendar.
can you put in board of review too, so everybody's just sure on that? And
Yep, so our first budget meeting is next week, Thursday, the 14th at 3 o'clock. Then we have regular town board meeting on the 21st. Then our second budget meeting would be Tuesday, the 26th at 3 o'clock. Regular town board meeting October 5th. Our third, and then what would be our last budget meeting would be Thursday, October 12th at 3 p.m. Because we would be publishing the budget on October 16th or 17th, and Board of Review would be October 18th. We're gonna start at 9 o'clock that day.
and likely go fairly late.
I would bring a snack.
Repeat that again.
Snack or a meal?
We're gonna order
Starting
out.
at 9 o'clock on which day?
On the 18th.
I can tell you I will not be here on the 18th. I have to be in Polonia for 3 days.
You're certified, but I'm certified, Bill's certified, and Jackie's certified, so we're good.
I have to do a school.
And so,
Oh, that's the BOR, okay.
yeah.
And then, we would do.
Oh, Jackie's not, oh, you are back though, right, Jackie, on the 18th, October?
I'm
For
not
board of
certified.
review? Okay.
Yes.
And then after the 18th, we've got,
After the 18th, you'd have your regular town board meeting on the 19th. And then on November 2nd, we would move a little bit later, would be 6 o'clock start. We would do our budget hearing and hopefully approval. And then we could determine if we wanted to do a town board meeting right after that, or if we just wanted to hold that business until the 16th.
okay.
And then we celebrate Thanksgiving.
I don't like Thanksgiving.
It's my
Never
favorite
have.
holiday.
That was my dad's favorite though, Thanksgiving.
So what we're just really talking about is, do we want to move the November 16th meeting to November 2nd?
Yes.
Or if we need to have an extra budget meeting in there somewhere, if we have to talk about budget on a town board night. Right?
I think we likely would be, just to make sure we would be covered. I mean, we would be talking budget every week, starting next week until October 12th.
Right. And Jackie, you won't be with us on the 21st, right?
For town board meeting?
Yeah,
Correct.
okay. And then open book is on October 4th, right? No, open
No,
book,
no, we will, let you know open book tomorrow.
oh,
Yep. We're
no, I'm
just-
remembering a date on that letter, that's right, that
Yeah,
sample
we're just
letter.
confirming, those dates with Associate Appraisal.
Okay. Hopefully they're gonna give people a little more time.
Oh, they will. They'll
And
have
then they
a,
have that roll that you can click on and you'll see the whole tax roll, so that'll be good.
yes. But they'll have several assessors here the day of open book. It'll be more than just one, and then they will also take phone appointments the next day. So
Okay.
everybody that wants an appointment or a time they will make sure that that happens.
All right, great.
What's the time for the border review on 18th and potentially 19th?
It'll start at 9 on the 18th. I don't know how long it will go. It has to be at least 2 hours.
We are talking AM.
Yes, we are touching.
No one said AM or PM.
Do you, I
That
guess
may
if you're
not be
not
a
golfing in
problem.
the morning, you don't get up there?
And same thing on the 19th?
If we do have to also have the 19th, it likely will start at 9 AM again, yes.
Alrighty. So we got dates covered. Okay, dates and items for future agenda items. I think we're already there. All right, so next agenda items, we've got those already listed, so we're gonna talk about planning and zoning and possibly, TA. And we've got strategic planning yet. We're gonna have a discussion about that tomorrow. We also have a preview, coming up already. Zoning Hub is moving along really well, we found out today. So there's gonna be, a preliminary preview of that. But, let's see, what other next agenda items do we have? Budget. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I was wondering if we might consider consensus agendas. There's other municipalities that have that. And basically what that is you put a group together of items that you feel would be approved by consensus without discussion. And each member gets a chance to review that before the meeting, and if they have an objection to that, they can take it out of that group. And then you vote on that group as a unit so that you can speed your meetings along.
So like examples for tonight, well, examples would be like all the checks and voucher things.
Yeah, it could be
Perhaps that library resolution
Right.
tonight.
minutes,
Or if we're voting minutes, or if we're voting to approve a $200 can
a
donation
liquor license, the easy things that we probably always agree on,
resolutions are probably still gonna be on the main agenda,
probably.
unless it's like a honorary resolution.
Not opposed to the idea, but could I ask, given that we wanna make this advanced timeline for budget, could we just hold that item?
Yeah, I think we'll hold that till after the first of the
Yeah.
year, because
That's fine.
isn't it in our ordinance too, that it's,
We've had the conversation with past clerk treasurer about consent agendas.
yeah.
Certainly have broached that topic and looked at how those agendas might look like. I would just say, given the stuff that's on our plate and being
Yes.
sensitive to our new clerk treasurer,
Yes.
just easing into some of the
Yeah.
some of the
Really.
things that can hold a little bit.
You're,
So,
you're welcome,
but
Melissa.
I have had the conversation with past clerk treasurers. I know it's been something that's been discussed for that very reason. Certainly something that can be discussed at a later point.
Yeah, I
With
like
just
the
the
idea.
request that we hold till we get past at least the budget piece.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Next meeting date and time.
Thursday, the 14th, 3 o'clock. Little bit different than usual.
Oh, 3 o'clock, wait a minute. My
At
ears
3?
perked up.
Yep, we're at 3 on the 14th. We're going
Thursday the
early because of budget.
Bring dinner.
That's 3 PM, not AM.
Yeah, 3 PM.
All right, so now I've got to have a board meeting on here for that day. Okay.
I get up early, I don't get up that early.
Would that all be board stuff?
Meeting adjourned.
From 3 to 5, or what?
The meeting is adjourned at 7:33.
That'll be 3 to